Oh my God, do you hear that? It's right outside our door. It's the recession. It's going to be terrible. Go get in the hole we dug in the backyard, hide all the gold, and protect the canned goods at all costs. If you're tired of hearing about the recession, the depression, conspiracy theories, and you want to get some actual information about what's happening, in this video, I'm going to break down the recession, a depression, and what you can do about it to make sure that you are prepared so that you don't have to panic and you can make sure you make good, sound decisions for your retirement. So let's dive into a recession, because everybody from Elon Musk, who's saying that we are currently in an inevitable path for a recession, Bill Gates, who's saying that we're already in a recession, and Jamie Dimon, who's saying it could be even a depression, everybody is giving warning signs to American people. Even Jeff Bezos, who literally has no incentive to tell people to batten down the hatches because he makes money on us buying everything, is saying,
look out, we're going to be having a recession. It's going to be bad.
so what is a recession? So a recession is defined as a decline in trade or economic activity and GDP falling for 2 consecutive quarters in a row. Now, recently we've seen some debate over what a recession actually is and the definition possibly changing. I'm not going to get into politics, but you can see how there is a clear-cut framework to determine if we're in a recession, which right now, currently in 2022, we are. So what is it going to look like in 2023? How can you be prepared, and what are we going to do to make sure that if it does turn into a recession, or possibly even worse, a depression, you can make sure that you and your family are in the best position possible and that your retirement is secure? So on average, there's been about 13 recessions in US history. On average, they last approximately 11 months each. But the good news is that almost after every single recession we've had, after about 3 months, the market does seem to return back to its normal levels. Now, what's interesting about a recession is it doesn't necessarily correlate with market downturns. In fact, there's been a handful of recessions over the past 120 years where the market's actually increased by an average of 3 to even 8% during times of recession. Now, let's talk about what happens if things get worse, because Robert Kiyosaki, one of my personal heroes, has talked about it being recession, depression, or even full-on civil war. I don't see a civil war, end of the world, end of the United States scenario playing out, but there are a lot of people who are concerned because Robert Kiyosaki was just on David Patrick Bett's show saying how there could be a depression. Now, depressions are pretty extreme. It's considered to be a significant downturn in the economy or an extreme recession, usually lasting 3 or more years, and a decline in GDP by at least 10% in any one given year. The Great Depression actually lasted from 1929 to 1939. So that's 10 years of decline. Really scary times for people. So you can see why in the beginning of the video I was joking around about needing to dig a hole in the backyard and needing to bury money, because people actually had to go through some really, really hard times. I don't want to make light of that for people because it was really hard to shape the rest of their future. But what I want to share is that you need to really be prepared and be paying attention, because if things do get worse and we go into a full depression, that could last a long time. And if you're starting out your retirement or in the early years of your retirement, that could have a significant negative impact on your retirement income going forward for the next 30 years. You may not be able to wait 10 years to be able to be in a position to access your money again. So, I mean, as you can see, this is why people are so worried, because there have been periods in US history where we've had significant downturn, significant job loss, horrible deflation, inflation, things that impact us tremendously, people panicking, and there being a lack of trust for the banks, the institutions in this country. So things could get worse. We don't know where things are going right now. So if I'm starting to freak you out right now and I'm starting to sound like your crazy uncle at Thanksgiving who talks about things being sprayed in the sky and cryptocurrency taking down the world and Elon Musk being connected to some type of, I don't know what kind of conspiracy theories you're hearing out there, but if you're done with that kind of fear and conspiracy, take a minute, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, come hang out here, and in a little bit, I'm going to share with you the solutions on what you can do to put you and your family in the best position possible. But before I do that, let's talk about the factors that actually lead up to a depression so you can kind of see what's happening and gauge for yourself if you think that there's a depression potentially around the corner in 2023 or longer. So the main factors that you're going to see that lead up to a depression are a sustainable increase in unemployment, a drop in available credit, diminishing output and productivity, consistent negative GDP growth, bankruptcies, sovereign debt crisis and defaults, reduced trade in global commerce, and bear markets and stocks. These are going to be the signs that we're heading towards a depression, and this is going to be how you can gauge, hey, whether this recession could go longer than we expect and eventually turn into something much, much worse. So it's clear that we're in a recession right now, obviously, but where is it going from here? Are we going to pull back and start to see recovery and rates decline, or are we going to see us go into a further type of depression? Now, The Federal Reserve has a lot at their disposal, and they already have a rate hike coming up here in just about a week from the time this video is being filmed. But it could be the last one of 2022. We're going to see what they're going to do, if they increase rates again or if they pull back. Now, a lot of people that have been watching my channel or have been meeting with in person have been asking me,
what is going on with these interest rates?
Because they've printed so much money, and when I say they, the Trump administration printed and then Biden doubled down. And so you have both administrations that printed an exorbitant amount of money. 50% of the money supply that's ever been printed in the United States was printed basically in the last 3 years. And so there's all this money floating around chasing too few goods, not enough real estate to purchase, not enough goods and services, not enough gasoline. So people raise prices accordingly. And when they raise prices, then you start to see inflation. This is a problem. So the federal government says, okay,
We need to destroy some of this money.
now we're going to quantitative tighten. How do they do that? Well, they raise interest rates. What does that do? It makes money more expensive to borrow. It makes money more expensive to lend between institutions. So they're literally destroying our wealth. And so this is one thing that gets really frustrating is they print all this money, then they suck it back out and we end up paying for it. So it's really like a stealth tax that you're seeing. But they have to do it because if inflation gets out of control, you could literally have the collapse of your society if your currency becomes worthless. Now, inflation just came out. It was slightly lower, about 0.5% than it had been almost all year. And so now you're seeing some minor celebration in the market, some encouragement, and you blow this big bubble of assets. Michael Burry calls it the greatest asset bubble. You're going to see a lot of prices increase during that time. That's what investors are hopeful for, that we're going to see soon. But if they're wrong and we're seeing things play out in the normal order and these lagging indicators starting to catch up, you're seeing major companies across almost every sector doing pretty heavy layoffs right now. That's not going to catch up in our economy for a little while. We have a tremendous amount of real estate that's being delivered to the market between November and March of 2023. That's going to catch up to the market eventually. So you haven't really seen the full economic impact of the things that are happening right now that'll play out over the next 6 to 12 months. So in order to protect your retirement, there's a few key things that you can do to make sure that you and your family are in the best position possible. Number one, by far, that I'm doing personally and I encourage everybody to do is get 12 to 24 months in the bank. Get your expenses figured out. Now, 12 to 24 months is typically longer than most people recommend. And again, this isn't financial advice. I'm just telling you what you need to do to be secure. If you lose your job, if you have some type of significant health issue, if something comes up that's unforeseeable or prolonged periods of high inflation, you're going to need to be able to have extra cash on hand. 12 to 24 months, a really good, prudent move right now. Number two, do not panic. Like I said in the beginning of this video, all of these things were followed by great times in the market and the economy. So again, we will get through it. If you're saving for a certain amount for retirement, do not change courses and panic and make these drastic moves. That's when you're going to make some mistakes. Double check your insurances. This is by far number three. This is super important because you need to make sure that you have the right risk management tools in place. If God forbid you lost a breadwinner spouse or a contributor to the household income, make sure their life is insured. Make sure their health is insured with disability. Make sure that your insurance is on point. You don't want to have any type of scares or surprises right now. It's up to you to be prepared for that ahead of time so that you can stay secure and can stay the course, you don't make any mistakes, and you can profit from what's coming by staying safe first. Do your best to stay employed and work more. I love this book called The One Thing. Shout out to my friend Caleb Williams, owner of Better Wealth, who gave it to me. It is probably the book that changed my life the most in the past 12 months. It's all about finding your one thing and sticking to it. If you have a great job, work a little more, get some more time in, get some more hours in, make sure you're doing a little extra right now. If companies are looking at people to lay off, you don't want to be one of them that they're kind of looking at or seeing it as a possibility. Doing the right things to make sure that your job is secure is one of the best things you can do to protect your retirement and make sure that you get through this recession or depression with your income. And if you own a business, again, same thing, double down, see what you can tighten up, see how you can improve processes, systems, employee morale. Make sure that everything's running smoothly and you're putting in that extra time now so that when the recession gets potentially worse, if it does, or we go into a depression, you are prepared and you have everything at your disposal to make sure you can make it through uninterrupted from income. Next is cut back and save more. Look at your monthly expenditures. Look at things you're currently doing. Look at things that are unnecessary. And it may not sound that fun. However, we just had a bunch of fun. The last decade was super fun. Time in the future will be super fun. And this time can be fun too. You don't have to like live under a rock or in that hole in the backyard. Better to save now and have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Finally, evaluate your risk capacity. If you're taking on too much risk right now, I would say don't. Make sure you're staying in alignment with what you've always done to be successful up to this point. Stay active in what you're doing and keep moving forward slowly and incrementally. Don't shoot for these massive things right now. again, there will be a time for this opportunity to be really, really prevalent and for you to take advantage of it. I would strongly consider you to take a second look, run it past your team of advisors, and make sure that you know what you're doing and you know the risks. If you take on too big of a risk right now and it doesn't work out, and we have the depression or recession on top of it next year, that could be pretty intense. Evaluate right now. This is a time to go deep. Look within and see what you can do to put you in a more secure position. The bright spot in all of this is it always works out. They always come back around. They always do quantitative easing. They always print money. They always pump the markets and asset classes right back up. Preparing for retirement during times or after times of recession can be some of the most exciting and best, most profitable times ever. Just make sure that you are the one benefiting from it and not the one paying the price for it. I really appreciate you watching. Leave comments. I'd love to engage with you. I'd love to expand on any of these ideas. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.